We're on.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Barnes, Vice Chair of the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee. Thank you for joining us as we live stream today. You are welcome to watch the meeting on the City of Cambridge YouTube channel, which you can find through Google. If there are any issues with technology tonight impacting this meeting may be recessed at the discretion of the chair or host to confirm that the electronic format is performing effectively before proceeding further with the agenda. As a reminder for those who are watching, the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, is, as the name suggests, an advisory committee that makes recommendations that then go to council for a decision. Okay, let's get started on today's proceedings. First, I will ask our recording secretary and host to complete the roll call for MHAC committee members so that we can confirm everyone's attendance as we're coming to you electronically.
John Oldfield,
Unmute.
I was present, but I was muted present, so
Nelson
I'm present now.
Cecilia,
I'm here, present.
Michelle Goodrich,
Here.
Susan Brown,
Present.
Mark Leclerc,
Present.
Kimberly Livingston,
Present.
Nancy Woodman,
Present.
Counselor Wolf,
Present.
Scott Roberts,
Present.
Amy Barnes.
And I am present. In addition, we're going to take a moment to welcome the staff we have joining us today. Joining us electronically, we have our Senior Planner Heritage, Abraham Plunkett Latimer, the Recording Secretary and Host, Karen Steig-Drobig, and the Manager of Development and Policy Planning, Deanne Fries. Thank you today also to our technology staff, Greg Algie, who's assisting in logistics for today's meeting. As this is a virtual meeting, each member of the committee who wishes to speak is asked to press the raise hand feature on your video call. The host and chair will track our speakers list today and then invite you to speak accordingly. So I will call this meeting to order, and the first item is the election of the chairperson and vice chairperson for MHAC 2020. At the first meeting of each calendar year, the committee holds an election for the chair and vice chair positions, and I will now hand over the runnings for the election to Deanne Fries, who's going to facilitate that.
All right, thank you. So this will be a closed ballot anonymous election. After we call for the nominations, you will be able to vote using the polling options to vote. Only MHAC members can vote, and therefore Deanne Fries, Abraham Plunkett Latimer, and Karen Steig-Drobig will not be voting in this election. So we'll start with nominations for the chair. Do we have any nominations?
I would like to nominate John Oldfield for chair. Oh, I will look at hands. Nancy Woodman, go ahead.
I would like to nominate Michelle Goodrich for chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations? I can't see everyone on my screen, so.
I see none.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's no further nominations, can we have someone to move that the nominations are closed?
Nelson moves that they're closed.
And the seconder?
Suzanne.
Okay, thank you. The nominations for chair are now closed, and now I'm going to ask the two people that are nominated if they accept the nomination. Start with you, John.
Yes, I accept.
And Michelle.
Yes, I accept.
Okay, great. So now we're going to actually do the voting. So Karen's going to start the poll. You'll have one vote in the poll. And John, I'll enter your vote for you.
I don't see the poll.
I think she's still working on it.
Okay.
Karen, are you setting up the poll? Karen's just let me know that she's working on the poll right now.
Do we have any like double Jeopardy background music?
It's okay. This is the beauty of real-time voting in a new system, everyone. So
It was up for a second.
I think it was the.
I think
the
that was
wrong
our
poll.
tester,
It's the tester,
go
yeah.
there. So
Yes, it
it's
was.
just a matter of rearranging those names.
I'm sorry, it does not seem to want to work properly. I'm going to try it one more time, okay?
No problem, Karen.
Karen, I'm wondering if you stop sharing the screen, if it might work. Because I don't think you were sharing the screen last time we tried it.
Oh, there it
never
is.
mind. Okay. So Karen, does it tell you when everybody's voted, or should I go through each person to make sure they voted?
No, it's okay. I believe that everyone is voted. So I don't know, when I end polling, are you going to see the results or should I be giving you the results?
I don't know. Why don't you just give them to us?
Let's just.
I believe you
Okay.
hit end poll like last time and then it should pop up.
Okay. So, okay.
But it was just a matter of not saving it.
Right. Oh, and I have to take a copy. So do you see this? Can you see it?
No, we see nothing right now.
Okay. So I will share the results.
Okay, I believe everyone should have the results shared in front of them.
Yes.
Okay, so John Oldfield has been elected the chair of the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee. And then we'll now move on to the vice chair position. So just
I
while
would just
Karen's,
like to say thank you very much.
all right. So well, first I'll call for nominations for the vice chair. Do we have any nominations?
I would like to nominate Amy Barnes.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Okay, if there's no other nominations, then may I have someone to move and second to close the nominations?
Pam moves and Nancy seconds.
Okay, nominations for the vice chair are now closed. I'm going to go just to you, Amy. Are you willing to accept the nomination?
I will happily accept. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and there's no need for a vote. So Amy has been, oh, sorry, I should say your last name too. Amy Barnes has been elected vice chair of the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee. And now we can move on with the meeting. And I understand, Amy, that you won't be staying the whole time, so Scott will be taking over as chair.
Yes, sorry, everyone. I do see two hands still up though. And if they're meant to be taken down, I think I'll just double. Okay, thanks guys, just to make sure there was no errors in that. Yes, thank you, Scott, for graciously taking over tonight. And I will apologize, everyone, but I will see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Have a happy birthday celebration.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Give that
your
COVID
husband.
pinata a good whack for us.
Whack.
I will. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Amy. And yes, a very happy birthday to your husband this evening. We will continue on. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate John and Amy on their being reappointed to the position of chair and vice chair. I think I can say for all, they've done a phenomenal job over the 2020, and we all know how tough 2020 was. So I look forward to working with them once again as we go into 2020, the sequel. For those of you that are joining us on YouTube, and I had indicated to everyone on the committee here, this is a very significant night. This is a once in a lifetime. It is the 21st day of the 21st year of the 21st century. So Amy's husband has a very unique day to celebrate his birthday. With that said, we have a total of 5 delegations tonight. As a result of City Hall closures and social distancing guidelines being in place, in-person public attendance at the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee meeting is not currently available. However, the procedures for electronic participation during the course of an emergency, excuse me, allow for the public to provide written submissions to the City Clerk's office or to the Senior Planner Heritage in advance of the meeting for items on the agenda. This evening, we have several registered delegations, 5 as I mentioned, that will be joining us virtually. We have, as I said, 5 in total. The delegations registered for this evening's agenda. Our first delegate is Rachel Redshaw of MHBC, is delegating for the request to designate a property of cultural heritage value under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act and to relocate Heritage House known as 1395 Main Street. Please be patient while our host invites Ms. Redshaw into the meeting. This could take us a few minutes.
And relocate Heritage House as 1395 Main Street.
If I could please ask that everyone, if not speaking, just please, if they could be on mute, just so that we have no disruptions. Ms. Redshaw, are you online with us?
Yes, I am.
You are. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. To delegate, if I could ask the host to share the screen, the presentations will be provided. The floor is yours, Ms. Redshaw. You have 5 minutes allotted.
Okay. All right, I'm just waiting for the PowerPoint to pop up there.
Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
No, not yet. Oh, I see it coming up. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So, all right. Okay, you let me know when I can start.
It's all yours. I think the committee, we can all see the presentation, so the floor is yours.
Okay, sounds good. So good evening, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm just going to do a synopsis of the HIA addendum completed for 1395 Main Street, City of Cambridge. So we can go to the next slide. Just a quick background. In 2012, an HIA, a preliminary HIA was completed by Stantec, and that just concluded that the farmhouse on site should be retained and conserved. In October of 2019, an architectural report of the existing farmhouse, measured drawings and schematic plans for relocation was completed by Martin Simmons Architects. And then in December of 2019, a structural assessment report was completed by Tacoma Engineers. So the engineer that completed that was a member of the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals, and that report was to determine if the house is a good candidate for relocation. And lastly, in October of 2020, a revised HIA addendum was submitted to the city, and it initially was submitted in February of 2020 and then revised based on city's comments. Then go to the next slide. All right. So once the slide comes up, on the left-hand side, you'll see the draft plan of subdivision. And then to your right, you'll see an overlay of the subdivision on an aerial. It's just to compare the existing location of the house in red, so it would be a red box, and the relocation site, which is identified by the yellow star. So the relocation site is approximately 190 meters northwest of the existing location. The current orientation of the house will be retained upon relocation. And then we'll pop to the next slide. Okay. So on the next slide, you will see a detailed view of the relocation site. So the lot that was selected is a larger lot than the surrounding lots. There is an addition to facilitate a garage and some additional living space. The relocation site is located at the main entrance of the subdivision. So the house will be presented as a feature of the subdivision. Okay, and then we can move on to the next slide. So we did acquire professional opinions in regard to the relocation. So as I mentioned, in October of 2019, there was a report completed by Martin Simmons Architects. That report concluded that there seems to be no significant reason why the structure cannot be relocated. No major structural flaws were evident in the stone exterior walls. And then again, in December 2019, we had Tacoma engineers complete a structural review, and they concluded that they were of the opinion that the existing house is a good candidate for relocation. So we can move on to the next slide. So the next slide, you will see the stone farmhouse. The identified heritage attributes are the exterior stone masonry, the symmetry of windows and doors, that center hall plan, the front door opening with a flat arch, lancet arch window below the front gable, molding along the eaves, and returning gables, and the central gable on the front elevation. And then just at the bottom of the slide, you can see there the measure drawings of the existing farmhouse that were completed by Martin Simmons. So we'll move on to the last slide here. So the HIA addendum concluded that adverse impacts to the farmhouse were limited to the minor impact of removal of original rubble stone foundation as a result of relocation, a negligible impact of alteration to the farmhouse due to the extension of window openings to facilitate an addition to the house upon relocation. So the mitigation measures were identified as the impact of the destruction of the foundation of the farmhouse can be mitigated by the reuse of fieldstone in landscaping, and the impact of alteration to the original house by means of an addition can be mitigated by the completion of a conservation plan. So that was a recommendation of the HIA addendum. We also included some short-term immediate conservation recommendations, and those included repointing of masonry addressing cracks in the northeast and southeast corners of the exterior masonry walls, and also periodic inspections to ensure boarding is adequate. So that is the end of the synopsis. If you have any questions, you can let me know. We also have Victor Lebrecht from IBI Group, who represents the client and the plan of subdivision on call. So if you have any questions for him, he's also on standby.
Thank you, Ms. Redshaw, for your delegation tonight. Are there any questions from a member of the committee? If you could just please raise your hand, I will acknowledge, and you may ask your question. Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and to the delegation, will you, from what I saw, are the windows all knocked out? Will you be replacing them? And if you are, what will you be replacing them with? Or what material?
Yeah, so through the chair, so the original windows are there behind the boarding.
Okay.
I don't know the condition of the glass panes, so those would be something that we would address in the conservation plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you. But you wouldn't be putting like vinyl windows in. They would be just repairing the wood windows.
Yeah. So we'd be following the standards and guidelines for the conservation. So we'll be repairing as much as we can to the extent that we can. And we definitely discourage vinyl windows.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Wolf. Are there any other questions? Nancy? Oh,
Yes.
sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry.
The same question Councillor Wolf had about the windows. I'd like to ask about the doors.
Mm-hmm.
Do you plan on retaining, restoring? What's the scenario there?
Yeah, so through the chair, well, we do plan on restoring the entryway. So there were like side lights and a transom window, so that's been boarded up. So we do plan on restoring that back to the way it was originally.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, are there any questions for staff? Also seeing none. All right. Well, Ms. Richard, thank you so much for your delegation this evening. You are free to leave the meeting if you choose, or if you'd like to continue to watch it on the YouTube channel, you are most welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Our next delegation, next delegation for this item number 1 is Mr. Dan Curry, also of MHBC. Please be patient while our host invites Mr. Curry into the meeting, and this again could take us a few moments. Are you able to hear us, Mr. Curry? Not yet. Mr. Curry? Mr. Curry, have you been able to? Oh, I think we have him now. Mr. Curry, were you able to join?
He has not picked up the phone yet, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Sorry.
Not a problem. I was just going to say, clearly we're having technical difficulties, but not a problem. Well, if I could, if it's all right, I believe there was one other delegation on this matter that was going to also be speaking to it this evening. Would it be possible to reach out to the third delegate on this matter? This would be Mr. Victor Lebreche, I believe that's how it's pronounced.
I'm calling him right now, Mr.
All right.
Chair.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm calling him right now. All right, here.
Hello.
Good evening. Is this Mr. Lebreche? I hope I'm saying that properly.
Labresh.
Lebreche, I apologize. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I will turn the floor over to you. You have 5 minutes in which to present your delegation. And just for the sake of the committee, you are the Associate Director, Practice Lead Planning for IBI Group.
That is correct. Yes.
The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, members of committee. As Ms. Bradshaw did refer to earlier in her presentation, we're the applicants on behalf of the plan of subdivision in its entirety. and really only here to answer any or be available to answer any questions as it relates more to the overall plan of subdivision. We certainly support the HIA addendum that was prepared, submitted by MHBC, as well as the staff recommendation report. So we're here in support of all of those. Again, the HIA addendum and the staff recommendation report. And I think we would just leave it at that unless there was other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaBrush. Are there any questions from the committee or the delegate? John Oldfield.
Thank you, through you, Scott. I don't really have a question, just a comment. I would like to say to Mr. LaBrush that I'm very pleased with the very thorough report, and I would just like to thank Rachel as well for the work that she's done on this. And I think it's very commendable that they're going to take the time, money, and effort to move this heritage home to a new location and give it a new life. So I just want to thank them for their efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Oldfield, and considerations in that regard by the committee. I will certainly pass it on to the landowners. Laurel Beam Homes, quality builder developer in this region for several years, and they've certainly taken this under a lot of consideration, and I'll pass it on as a positive for sure. And thank you.
Thank you, John. Are there any other questions, comments? I assume your hand is just still up, John, or did you have another question?
I'm working on that, Scott.
Okay, no worries. Well, I will certainly take the opportunity. I too, I would like to echo, as a number of the committee members that are on this call this evening, we were present for that site visit. Hard to believe, back June 19th of 2019. But it was certainly when we came upon that house, especially the way we trekked through the fields to get to it, it was certainly a diamond in the rough. And I too am so pleased that the house has been actually in as good shape as it is, as I too read through the report. The only one question I did want to ask, and I do appreciate that the barn structure, which has been demolished, has the material been saved? I did see that there was talk that towards the entrance of this community, there would be something to be put in place. I'm certainly not asking what that design may be, but I just, that those materials have been secured for that purpose of the project.
I know that if I may, in response to a bit of the information I know in that regard, the barn structure was removed several years ago, and much of the structural supporting materials of the barn was salvageable. The exterior was in a rot condition or had been removed by others, trespassing, I think, otherwise. And to the best of my knowledge, the structural material of wood was provided to local salvaging Mennonite community and reused at this point. There was nothing really salvageable per se to place as part of the entrance.
Okay, all right. And this is just strictly out of curiosity. How will the house be moved? I would assume it's going to go across the field. I can't imagine this would be something that's going to be taken out to the main roadway, because then obviously service lines and various things like that would come into play. I would assume it would go across the two fields.
Yes, basically in a angled sort of position, as I think shown on a couple of the plans that are in the report, taking the shortest path of travel.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Are there any further questions? Are there any questions for staff? Seeing none. Mr. Brisha, thank you so much for participating in our meeting this evening and for your delegation. You can now leave the meeting. and you are most welcome to watch the remainder of the meeting on the City of Cambridge YouTube channel, should you choose to.
Thank you. Take care, all.
Thank you. Were we able to get a hold of Mr. Curry before we move on?
No, we were not.
We were not. Okay. All right. All right. I believe that was the 3 delegations that we did have for that particular article. Our next delegation, this is moving on now to, sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on my notes here. Sorry, our next delegation is Mr. Matthew O'Neill from the region of Waterloo, is delegating for the item 2 this evening, Environmental Project Report, Stage 2 ION. If we could please once again be patient while our host invites Mr. O'Neill into the meeting. And once again, this may take a moment or two.
Hello.
Hi. Wow. Quick. We're used to waiting, everyone. Welcome, Mr. O'Neill. I will turn the floor over to you. You have 5 minutes for your delegation.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So I'm attending today primarily to respond to any questions in regards to the Stage 2 ION project. As a quick summary of where we're at with the project, on December 10th of last year, we commenced the transit project assessment process. At that time, the draft environmental project report was made available to the public. It's available on the project website, regionofwaterloo.ca/stage 2 ION. There are also some presentations, and you can fill out a survey and submit comments at the Engage site, engagewr.ca/stage 2 ION. As part of the draft environmental project report, a number of technical reports and appendices were also made available, and that included a cultural heritage report, along with some cultural heritage evaluation reports. And I see that the material has been reviewed, and there have been a number of questions submitted to the region about the draft environmental project report and the process itself, and the cultural heritage existing conditions and preliminary impact assessment report. So some responses have been provided by the region, by our consultant, WSP, and I believe that Joel Conrad of WSP is available this evening to answer more detailed questions as well. So the comment period is open until February 12th. So comments received now from the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee will be included as part of the overall comment period, and will form part of the formal record that is documented as with the final EPR, the Environmental Project Report. I'll call it EPR from here on out, and which will be filed at the end of the current process. So, with that, I will leave it to you. I'll pass it back to you, and look to you to ask any questions and let me know what more details may be required.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. O'Neill. And if you could just hold on, I will turn this over to the MHAC committee for any questions that they may have for you. Seeing Michelle Goodrich.
Thank you, Scott. Mr. O'Neill, I have 3 questions. I will try to keep it as organized as possible, and my apologies for not sending these in ahead of time. I kind of looked at the responses that you gave, and thank you so much for the detailed responses to the questions that we did send in. My first question is regards to the property at 127 Beverly Street. Of the properties that are listed for demolition, this one is a particular concern to me. It is a listed property. It is a stone cottage that has obvious architectural significance. And I'm wondering if the region would be open to work with the city if they were to so choose to designate this structure, if there is a way to work around that so that we could save the structure.
127 Beverly Street,
Yes.
you said? Okay, and this is the main structure itself, the house at that location?
Yes.
Is this the one that is closer to the roadway, or is this one that is set back?
It is set back.
I would have to get back to you on that. I can't say off the bat. The challenge in that area is that we are limited with how far from the houses and the Beverly Street itself we can move, like how much we can encroach on Mill Creek itself. We haven't really entertained moving the alignment closer to the creek to date. I don't know if we can make any further adjustments to the route at this point. Apologies, I'm just going to bring up that location really quickly here.
No problem.
So I think I would need to take a closer look. I didn't realize that sorry, what did you say the status of that structure is?
It's listed on our heritage inventory.
Okay, I will also say that, so you were saying that it is shown to be demolished. Is that what you said?
Yes, so in the report on page 26 of your report, but 386 of our agenda, it's listed as being for direct impact for demolition. And its SURE number is 52.
Okay, my understanding is that for this type of situation, that would not be a final disposition until the HIA was completed. And at that time, the HIA, at the time that the Heritage Impact Assessment is completed, that would be circulated to the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, and that the city would ultimately retain control over whether to approve a demolition permit. So I will note that my understanding is the city, there will be a further process involved, that the work in the report completed to date isn't a final say. I will also point out that the tracks do not appear to conflict, the tracks themselves do not appear to conflict directly with that structure. What is shown is it's a partial property acquisition. So I think that there may be an opportunity here to revisit that disposition or assessment, especially through the HIA. And I think it's worth having some additional discussion at that time. So to me, I don't think it's necessarily guaranteed that it has to be demolished as part of the project. But I also can't guarantee that it wouldn't be. I really do think that the project needs to complete more detailed design to have more confidence in the geometry and the alignment, and then also whether there's an opportunity to retain that structure. But your comment is well taken, and I can't tell you, we will come back before anything happens here with some more study and with some more design. I don't know the timing of that. I can't guarantee you it's going to happen in the very near future, but certainly prior to implementation.
Thank you so much, Mr. O'Neill. I really appreciate that.
Welcome.
My other quick question, I can condense it a little bit here. I was just wondering about demolition timelines. So I know that this project is several years out, and there's a lot of factors as to whether it'll actually come to fruition. So all this work is being done ahead of time. I'm wondering if the project weren't to happen or be delayed, would we get a second chance to discuss it as we are today, or is that whatever decision we make on this report final? And if the project does not happen, will the houses be retained or will they be demolished ahead of time?
Okay, that's a good question. I can tell you that this report isn't the final say, and any comments here are not final. Any structure or feature or resource that has some cultural built heritage value will be assessed further before there are any impacts. So buildings like this one at 127 Beverly, for example, we will be completing a heritage impact assessment, so that there will be another opportunity to comment on the HIAs for structures that are directly impacted. If the project, I don't know, the timelines we have right now, we expect, provided we identify funding, we receive funding for the project, we think construction would start approximately 2028. So when demolition, the timeline for demolition will depend on property acquisition. Property acquisition depends on a variety of factors, so it could happen sooner, it could happen later. In some cases, we prefer to acquire property by negotiation, but sometimes that does not pan out for various reasons. And we need to use a mechanism like expropriation to secure the property required to implement the project. In those cases, we typically start expropriation closer to construction. And in cases where we're expropriating a property that has a listed building on it, then obviously any impacts to that resource or feature would happen much later in the process. If we acquire a property now, I can't guarantee whether the building would be demolished in the near future or closer to construction. We do believe we will receive funding, and we are planning towards the construction. There are various reasons why it is undesirable to leave a structure that is intended for ultimate demolition. It is undesirable and not preferred to leave it vacant for a period of time. There are security reasons and other risks and other ongoing costs. So if the final disposition is that a building is to be demolished, then there are scenarios and cases when it is preferable to demolish it right away. Currently, we don't have any kind of definite schedule. It is typically on a case-by-case basis, and it depends on the site and on the property. I can tell you that to date, we've worked very closely with city staff, and we will continue to do so. And we do strive to be sensitive to comments and to accommodate comments and concerns. And I trust that very fruitful relationship will continue moving forward. And I hope we can work together to, proactively identify potential concerns and try and protect features where we can, and try and limit the impacts that this project is going to have.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Did you have another question, Michelle? I thought I heard you say you had three. Was that?
I did, but I condensed the last two into
Oh,
one.
I apologize. All right. Thank you. No, very, very, very good questions. Is there anybody else that would like to? Nancy.
This is a follow-up to Michelle's question. Mr. O'Neill, you said that if a property was acquired, there would be a different process. What I'm wondering is if for instance, this 127, were you to acquire that property in advance of an HIA, does that mean you would be cleared to demolish without going through the HIA process?
No. So acquisition does not absolve us of requirements that would apply, by the city or by the ministry. It would effectively represent, the region taking it upon itself to move ahead with the project, but we still have to fulfill various requirements such as HIAs.
Thank you for that clarification. And one further question. At the time the HIAs are done, will there be more detailed information available on the type of impact, direct or indirect? And I'm thinking here, for instance, will we know where the track lines are running, where the stations will be when we are looking at the HIAs?
Yes, the HIA will have more detailed information about the site and the anticipated impacts. The HIAs may or may not happen after more detailed design is completed, so more detailed geometric design. So as far as the process goes, we have design now. We have a pretty good idea of where the tracks are, where the stations are, and a pretty good idea about what the impacts are. And there aren't a lot of scenarios where it's going to change significantly. So we can be doing HIAs soon after completion of the TPA, the Transit Project Assessment, and some of the detailed design may not happen. We may not have detailed design for 2 or 3 years, but in the meantime, we may be completing HIAs.
Thank you for your clarification.
Thank you, Nancy. John, you have a question.
Yes, thank you very much, through you, Mr. Chair. Matthew, thank you very much for taking the time to come down and be a delegate at our meeting here this evening. I think that the concerns that are being raised here is that if we were to vote in favor of the recommendation tonight, I would just like to clarify that that's in no way saying that any of these projects, it's not like we're signing a death warrant for any of these homes that are part of this evaluation. And I would also just like to turn the committee's attention to page 283 of our agenda, where it states that the heritage impact assessments have not been prepared as part of this environmental project report. This is because potential impacts to properties with cultural heritage significance are still being evaluated. So I think that goes a long way towards clearing up any concerns that people have about how far along in the process we are, and that you would definitely be returning as we move along through the process. Is that correct?
That is correct. I think that the recommendation here and the reports we've completed to date, I think it should be by approving this recommendation, what I see it as is saying we haven't missed something major. There isn't another building there that we haven't caught or picked up on, or that we've captured everything on the cities, that all the listed sites, that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Are there any further questions from the committee? I assume, John, you're probably just, oh, there it goes, putting your hand down. All right then, are there any questions for staff? Michelle.
Thank you, Scott. John pretty much nailed it, what I was trying to get at, but I just wanted 100% clarification from city staff that if we were to agree with this report, that we are not agreeing necessarily to allow for the demolition of the properties that are listed as being up for demolition.
I can respond to this. So my understanding is that no, that you would not be approving the demolition at this time. That the matter before you today, and sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, the matter before you today is to recommend the findings of the report, or accept the findings of the report, and provide comments to council. That's my understanding.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Are there any other questions to staff? Susan.
Actually, this isn't a question for staff, it's a question for the delegate. So on page 580 of your report is a map that shows the cultural heritage resources. And properties number 27 and 28 are in yellow, which is a candidate. But they are also City Cambridge listed properties. So they should they not be as municipally listed, which is a blue code?
I would have to defer to Joel if he happens to be on the line, or otherwise get back to you on that one.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, for clarification, we will be calling upon Joel after this delegation.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan. Any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, I have one to staff. I'm just curious, out of the properties that are listed, in the event that one of them or more were to decide to designate, will that be an issue with them? Would they be allowed to designate their homes? Or in light of what we're discussing here right now, would that not be allowed?
Through you, Mr. Chair. My understanding is that the standard municipal processes will apply for these properties. And so there would be the potential to designate these homes as a result of the findings of the cultural heritage evaluation reports and a heritage impact assessment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Susan, did you have another question, or is your hand still? There we go. Seeing no more questions, Mr. O'Neill, thank you so very much for your participation this evening. You are more than welcome to leave the meeting, but by all means, if you would like to see the discussions that will be taking place after our final delegation this evening, you are most welcome to on the YouTube channel of City of Cambridge.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thank you. All right, as indicated, and it was certainly hinted here by Mr. O'Neill, our final delegation tonight is Joel Conrad. He is the Senior Cultural Heritage Specialist with WSP. We will reach out to Mr. Conrad and be with you shortly.
I'm already on, I believe.
You're already there. Wonderful. Welcome,
I am.
Mr. Conrad. How are you this evening?
Thank you. I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As Matthew had stated, my role here is to answer any questions particularly as it pertains to any of the evaluations or structure of the reporting. And I guess with that, I'm happy to pass that over to anybody who would like to pose a question.
I will open the floor to the committee. Are there any questions for Mr. Conrad? Susan.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So were you on the line to be able to hear the question I had to the previous delegate?
Unfortunately, I received the phone call just as you had posed the question,
Okay.
so I was unable to hear it in its entirety.
Okay, all right. So my question is just regarding property 27 and 28. And That's 37 Beverly and 41 Beverly. And they are coded as being a candidate heritage resource. But they're also listed as a City of Cambridge property, a heritage property. So wouldn't that mean that they're a municipally listed property?
For those specific properties, I will have to go back and check, and I can provide a written response to you after I've taken a look at the report.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. My apologies. I can't. I'll have to again just to double check those. So thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Are there any further questions? Seeing none for Mr. Conrad, are there any questions for staff? John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. Again, not a question, but a comment. I would like to thank the region and everyone involved in these reports for coming to this committee so early in the process. Just basically, I believe this evening to keep us informed of how things are moving along and just to ask if we have any input. I think that we're still quite a ways away from getting into the more pointed questions specifically about individual properties, but I just want to thank you for including us in the process.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you for having us. It's always happy to answer questions, and I would reiterate what Matthew said at the outset of our delegate for this report. We look forward to working with the committee and on a continuing basis, and have this as a negotiation discussion to as much as we can. And yeah, we look forward to working with you when we go through the submission of the heritage impact assessments and further reporting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, did you have a question for staff or Mr. Conrad? Nope. It's down. Thank you. Seeing nothing further, Mr. Conrad, thank you so much for participating in this evening's meeting and for your delegation. You can leave the meeting if you choose, but you are most welcome to watch the remainder on the City of Cambridge YouTube channel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right. This concludes the delegations for this evening. We will now move on to the next item on the agenda, the minutes from the December 17th, 2020 meeting. I ask, as the committee found there to be any errors or omissions in the minutes as printed? Yes, Susan.
So I noticed that in the minutes under correspondence, it says none, but in the agenda package that we had for December, there was correspondence from the Regional Heritage Advisory Committee, and it was sharing to all the area MHACs a report on reusing heritage resources for our information and dissemination as appropriate. There was no discussion about this at our past MHAC meeting on this item.
Thank you, Susan. Are there any other comments with regards to the last month's meeting? Seeing none, if I could have a mover and a seconder. Seeing Councillor Wolf as mover and Michelle as seconder. Thank you. If I could now poll each of the committee members as to their acceptance to these meetings, minutes of this meeting. John Oldfield.
I'm in favor of accepting the minutes.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yes.
Nelson?
In favor.
Thank you. Susan?
In favor.
Mark?
In favor.
Kimberly?
In favor.
Nancy,
In favor.
Councillor Wolf,
In favor.
and myself. Now, mind you, I wasn't there, so but in favor as they have been written. So this motion is carried. Right. So the first report on the agenda this evening, this is a rather lengthy recommendation, so please bear with me. This is the request to designate a property of cultural heritage value under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act and to relocate Heritage House known as 1395 Main Street. That report 21-001 MHAC request to designate a property of cultural heritage value under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act and to relocate the Heritage House, 1395 Main Street, be received. And that Cambridge Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, recommends to Cambridge City Council that the clerk be authorized to publish a notice of intention to designate the main house of the property municipally known as 1395 Main Street because of its cultural heritage significance in accordance with Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And that MHAC recommends that Council approve the demolition of all the buildings and structures on the property of 1395 Main Street except for the main house. And that MHAC recommends that Council approve the request to relocate the house to a site within the current property where it continues to face to the south, as depicted in the Heritage Impact Assessment addendum submitted by Herman Britton Clarkson Planning Limited, MHBC, revised October 23rd, 2020. And that MHAC recommend the council provide for mutual agreement between the city and the owner for delaying passage of the designation bylaw for 1395 Main Street until the house is relocated. And that MHAC recommends that council approve the rehabilitation of the original house on the property after relocation. And I'm almost done. And further, that MHAC recommends that the council direct staff to update the Heritage Properties Register listing for the remainder of the property at 1395 Main Street after the designation of the main house on the property is registered on title. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. I see. Oops. Kimberly and Mark, seconder. Thank you. All right. Does the committee have any questions, comments with regards to what has been presented this evening? Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to echo comments that have already been made, that it's so nice to see this structure saved and the developer taking the time and money to relocate it so that we can enjoy it for many, many years. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you, Councillor Wolf. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, I will ask for a vote. If I could ask each member either to yay or nay the recommendations as presented. John Oldfield.
I agree.
Thank you. Nancy?
I agree.
Michelle?
Yes.
Susan?
I agree.
Mark?
Agree.
Kimberly?
Agree.
Councillor Wolf?
Agree.
Nelson?
Agree.
And I agree. The motion is carried. Thank you so much for that. The second item that was on our agenda this evening is the environmental project, stage 2 of ION, that report 20-039 MHAC environmental project report, stage 2 ION be received, and that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee accepts the environmental project report as its findings relevant to the cultural heritage as presented by the Region of Waterloo dated December 10th, 2020, and recommends the report to council, and recommends the report to council. If I could have a mover and seconder to open this. Seeing John and seconder Nelson. Thank you. And with that, I shall open the floor for discussion. Michelle.
Thanks, Scott. Based on the information that was presented today, along with some research that I've done, I am concerned about the property at 127 Beverly in particular. I had notified that I was going to make a motion in that regard, and I would like to add a line, I guess, to the motion that we have presented before us, and that motion would include that we encourage council to designate the property at 127 Beverly so that we can save that structure as it is a listed property. It's a lovely little stone cottage. I don't know if everyone's gone in and looked at Google Street View to see it or drove by. But if we could do that, then I think that we could continue to work with the region as they seem quite receptive to talk about saving potential important properties.
Thank you, Michelle. Given my inexperience here, this might be something that, well, I'll go through the rest of the questions and maybe we can circle back to this as to if this is something that needs to be rewritten into the into the recommendation. Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in regards to that motion, I think it should be a separate motion because we, I think it would just be clearer to do it that way, and rather than to attach it to this entire motion, which is basically just the environmental report, etc. My other point was I was going to say how impressed I was with the report. I'm glad we took an extra evening to be able to read the whole thing. I really like the report on making reuse the new normal. And I think that's a report that our committee might want to look at, for other items and see what changes we might be able to promote for council and for the city to look at. And I'd also just like to let you all know that Matthew O'Neill is a former student, and you can tell what a great job I did with him. He was in my grade 8 class and brilliant then too. So anyway, I was just really impressed with the report, and I do think we could make Michelle's motion a separate motion and it just be clearer.
Thank you, Councillor Wolf. Susan.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that with regard to 127 Beverly, I don't think it's the house that's under threat of demolition. I think it's the garage structure. If you go to page 346 of our agenda from December, it says for 127 Beverly, a garage structure at the rear of the property is the only structure that will be impacted by the proposed LRT infrastructure. So I just wanted to point that out. And I also agree with Pam that the report that we received last month from forwarded on by the Regional Heritage Committee is something that could be very useful in preventing more loss of our heritage.
Great. Thank you so much, Susan. Michelle, just to circle back, do you have any comments if we treat your recommendation as a separate motion?
I think that's a great idea. I did see that it was just the garage structure, but you can never be too safe with our lovely little stone cottages. So I would like to carry on if we can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any other comments? Councillor Wolf, is your hand still up, or do you have another?
Yes, I was just wondering if Michelle had any contact with the owner of the cottage, and if she knew, would they resist having it designated or not?
Thank you, Pam. I have no idea who owns that cottage, unfortunately.
Thank you, Councillor Wolf. Are there any further comments or questions before we put this to a vote? John Oldfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Personally, I find that moving to designate this property at this time is premature. As Matthew O'Neill stated, that it's at this point in time, it's only a partial property acquisition. I don't believe the property is threatened. And to be quite honest, I think this 127 Beverly Street is a very limited architectural value. And I would not be supporting a motion to ask for designation at this time. I'm not precluding that I wouldn't at a future date if it were threatened, but I don't believe this property is threatened at this time.
Thank you, John. Last call. Any further comments? Seeing none, we shall put this to a vote. I will ask each member to indicate either a yes, yay, agree, or no, nay, disagree. John Oldfield.
I just want a clarification here. You're asking whether or not I'm voting in favor of the original recommendation to accept the report.
That is correct.
I'm in favor of that, yes.
Thank you. Michelle Goodrich.
Yes.
Thank you. Susan Brown.
Agree.
Mark Leclerc.
Agree.
Kimberly Livingston.
Agree.
Thank you. Nancy Woodman.
Yes.
Councillor Wolf.
Agree.
Nelson.
Agree.
And myself, I agree. The motion is carried. Thank you so much. All right, I will now turn for chair's comments. John, do you have anything you would like to say to the committee this evening?
Scott, I believe you need to address the issue about whether or not to pursue designation and add an addendum to the recommendation.
Thank you so much. There's a chair with experience. Michelle, did you have wording that you would like to put forth with the recommendation to designate 127 Beverly Street?
So, Scott, I have a question, I suppose, for staff before I do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that we could offer a comment of our concern about the particular property, and maybe can we ask that staff look into it or keep an eye on it, as opposed to making the full recommendation to move towards designation? I think John does make a good point, but I would really like a close set of eyes on this, because it could lead to a point where it could be threatened. So I would really like to perhaps make it aware for council that we are concerned.
Fair question. Can we direct that to staff?
Yeah, it will be recorded in the minutes that there was that concern, and we can carry that forward. Is that enough?
Do we need a motion for that?
I think if it's a motion to designate, I don't know the answer to this because you don't have anything else that you're making a motion on. You can make an addendum to the motion for that was just made. I don't know, maybe John has the answer to that. Can we make a new motion for just the designation? Not sure, John, did you hear me? Can we make a new motion for just the designation that's separate from the addendum to this motion?
Again, I think it's premature. I think that we're in on this right at the very beginning. They've been very generous with their time. We've got all the information we could possibly need to evaluate things as it moves forward. I still think it's premature to be sounding any, to really be saying that 127 is in any threat at all of demolition. And so
I guess I'm just more questioning about the procedure wise as whether or not we can make a separate motion rather than an addendum. And I'm not sure how to answer that.
I would suggest that we don't want to do the motion at this point. So I think just having it in the minutes and having Laura Waldy aware.
Yeah, and Abraham's on the
and
the
Abraham,
call as well, so.
And because I think our next things would be to consult the owner of the property.
Yeah, so we'll share these minutes with both Laura and Abraham. Will have them as well after this meeting.
Yes. So if they're in the minutes, I think that at this point, this week, it's enough, and have people follow up from there.
Michelle, you had a...
So I'll take that as a direction to staff.
Yes, so I just wanted to make sure that this is very clear that we want council's eyes on it.
So that's how we'll record it in the minutes as well as a direction to staff to look further into the designation of 127 Beverly.
And to make sure that this is brought to council's attention.
Okay.
Council reads the minutes. They're part of our agenda of the minutes of this meeting.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it's okay.
Very good. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, I will now turn the attention to John Oldfield for chair's comments.
Oh, did we?
Oh, we did vote.
Did we?
Yeah, it carried.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Scott, for doing a wonderful job of standing in this evening. That was a very well-run meeting. I appreciate that very much. My comments are obviously we had a very serious loss of heritage in the city of Cambridge in this past month with the loss of the Preston Springs Hotel, which was quite a tragic moment. And I was there when the tower was removed, and I found it to be quite a moving experience to even just witness that. I'm not at all impressed with the owner's lack of responsibility in maintaining that property. And I hope that we can somehow get people to appreciate the heritage, that it's something that is valuable to the entire community. Unfortunately, we still have that problem as no matter what we try and do, you can't force someone who owns private property to spend money on it. I certainly hope that the city of Cambridge is able to recuperate the cost of the demolition. That would just be adding insult to injury if they just did the demolition on behalf of the owner. But I suppose at the same time, I also would like to share with the committee the good news that once again, council agreed with our recommendation to move forward with the designation of the property that we voted on last month that was associated with the Salvation Army Citadel on Shade Street. I'm sure you all remember the home with the very distinctive polychromatic brick pattern. And so that was, again, something that I was very happy to see. Certainly there's no comparison in heritage value between the two, but you know, we've got to celebrate our victories where we can. So I want to thank the committee for passing on a solid recommendation. And I also want to thank council for agreeing with our recommendation and going ahead with the designation of that property. I would also just mention that I'm very pleased to be re-elected as chair for another year. I apologize that I don't have the technical capabilities of chairing a Zoom meeting. Perhaps now that I think we all realize that this is going to be going on for quite some time yet. And so maybe I could gain the experience or more the confidence to be able to run a Zoom meeting and get back in the chair's position. But Amy is a very capable person at leading these meetings. And Scott, like I mentioned, you did a great job tonight, so thank you.
Thank you.
You know, usually I would rent the second floor of Cafe 13 for a party afterwards, but because of COVID, they're not going to let me do that. I'm sorry. And Councillor Wolf, I would like to say that you were just beaming when Matthew O'Neill was presenting tonight. And I thought that was very touching that he used to be one of your students and your pride was obvious. Thank you, everyone. And that's my comments for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I got to just quickly jump, obviously, as acting chair. And I, too, wanted to echo the bringing down of the Preston Springs. That was hard on so many ways. I can honestly say, and ironically, the last time we met as a committee within the council chambers was last February. And I was never so proud when this committee voted unanimously to not de-designate that property. I was also extremely proud of the fact, and as we know and recognized, we do have ACO members on our committee, and we have had our differences in the past, but on February 2020, we stood united. We were in sync. We all agreed that we were not just going to quickly roll over and de-designate that building and let it fall. It was hard. It was very hard. As I said, I was there too when the building came down, and I can honestly say that I do have a souvenir here. I was able to get a brick, which I will cherish always. I know there's going to be more situations like this, and I certainly know through social media that all of the heritage has taken a real hit. There's been some absolutely horrible things being said about us out there, but we're much stronger than this. We do a lot of good with the city, and we're going to continue to do that. And I look forward. So, as I said, lessons learned moving forward, but yes, onward and upward. And with that, I will turn to Councillor Wolf for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I think a lot has already been said that I was going to say for the council. First of all, I want to congratulate John and Amy for being reelected, and to thank them for the job they've done for the last few years, and look forward to another successful year with them leading MHAC. In regards to the Preston Springs, again, we've definitely council suffered under social media. The demolition wasn't ordered by us. We had no authority as a CBO, but I do think we can all learn lessons from this, and that's why I was so impressed with that. Making reuse the new normal, and they had some key recommendations in that, and part of it are things like trying to get heritage properties receive lower taxes, lower property taxes, and other financial incentives, so that people, when they own a heritage property, that there is a financial reward for taking care of that property, as opposed to so much of our philosophy in building is level a property and build new, and looking at all of the good environmental reasons for reusing. The greenest building is an existing building, that kind of thing. So whether we need to do that in government by making the cost of depositing building materials into landfill, all of those things. So there were some excellent ideas in that report, and I would, maybe like our committee to revisit it, and I will definitely be talking with council about things that maybe we can add to, our bylaws, or what we can do as a city. So let's hope that something like the Preston Springs never happens again. And I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor Wolf. Staff, are there any comments?
Yeah, I think I'll leave this to Abraham. If you have any comments, Abraham?
No, I have no comments. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, that concludes our meeting for this evening. If I could get a mover and a seconder. See here. I see Nancy. And I see Nelson. I feel like romper room. Thank you very much. Once again, and for those that have tuned in to see us this evening on YouTube, and to the committee members, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Our next meeting will be held on Thursday, February the 18th at 7 p.m. Via Zoom, unless something miraculously happens between now and then, but I don't think so. In the meantime, please take care, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll be talking to you soon. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Scott. Good night, everyone.
Good night,
everyone.
Right.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
You're still on live. Does it need to be ended, Karen?